Ian Trottier here, discussing the truth. Bianca Garza is a patriot, Latina patriot in Texas, defending her state and her country, her culture. And she, on behalf of her lawyer, who we are now joined with by Kellye, SoRelle, are filing a lawsuit. Tell us about this lawsuit.
So it's actually filed under me. It's the False Claims Act, so it's like a private prosecutor. It's under a key tam, which is basically if the government is, like the federal government, is defrauded of funds, then you can file suit on it. And so I filed suit against the 50 states for taking a total of about $825 million from the federal government for their elections, and then they violated the law. And that comes out of HAVA, which also incorporates the Civil Rights Act. So what it is basically the HAVA Act requires that, it's actually HAVA Act is the last word of it, but it requires that they meet minimum standards for elections, and that is basically the use of the drop box bylaws. There's a couple of other things. Machines have issues with certifications. There's several things, and they're in reports that are actually in the federal government regarding the machines. Long story short, I took that, which actually incorporates the Civil Rights Act, and then put that together with the quo ronto, which actually calls the members of Congress and the executive branch forward to validate that they were duly elected. And it shifts the burden to them. So they have to prove that their states upheld the law, which they did not. And that's an open admission. There's numerous records of that. So they're pretty much boxed in. I don't know what happens, but they're boxed in. And it's in the Supreme Court right now with the tiara.
This is really, it sounds like a real brilliant angle to approach this. How did you arrive at it?
Well, when I was actually with Warriors for Trump in Detroit, and I saw a lot of the unsecure location, and that's incorporated part of HAVA as well. And so I was like, look, we have these violations, we have these legal violations. I saw large containers going in and out of the hall, which is where they were doing the absentee ballot count in Michigan. And then I saw the media interfere because they were like, oh, we're done for the night. No, they weren't. I left my hotel, went down to verify, they shut down, and they had to shut down. So basically, I saw a lot of technical violations, and so I couldn't figure out where we were going with the fraud when you could just prove the technical violations. And then I started looking, and I was talking to different people who were associated with just the different legal factions, and we all kind of started throwing around that idea, but nobody really ran with it. So just over time, I got tired of it. I'm just tired of Biden's mandate. I mean,
Executive orders.
Yeah, this garbage. I'm just tired of it. So I just was like, I just gotta file something. So, yeah.
What were you doing in Detroit? Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from Texas. I was in Detroit with Warriors for Trump. I'm DFW area, but I actually went to Detroit with Warriors for Trump to babysit Detroit.
So where right now this is filed under
Seal.
Seal 31
seal.
U.S.
Yeah, it's under seal, so you can't like pull it up. People don't understand that. It's a sealed case. I've got tons of evidence on violations already. And one of the things I'm wanting is the people from the different states to kind of give me their technical violations or affidavits. I know they're basically already somewhere. I think the DOJ should have the authority of this, but just to make sure that this front page of mine, if you have information or evidence that you feel was not presented or was not accurately done in any of the 50 states, I'd like to see.
Crashed.
Yeah.
Internet's crashed right now, so I'm unable to pull up the actual document. How is this being received right now, from your understanding? I mean, Bianca is.
I'm excited about it. I think I have them. I've had several people review it. When I added the quo ronto language in there, it's pretty much like boxed them in. So Congress is because basically the 435 members of the House are illegitimate. They were all on the last ballot, and the state certified them. So the state technically shouldn't have anybody in the House, and 35 senators were on the ballot last round, and so those 35 should be excluded, as well as the executive branch, because all of this pertains to the federal ballot. So, and it's basically you can make changes, but they weren't done by the legislature as required under the U.S. Constitution, Article 1 and Article 2. So in Article 1 and Article 2, it says basically the state legislatures determine how we send electors and how we elect senators. And so with the governor's orders, the Secretary of State, and all of those guys, they all made the changes themselves. And so after they did that, it basically violated the Constitution because the legislature should go back into office.
Have you heard from the Supreme Court?
I'm pending the temporary restraining order. I have not heard from it. But I just filed it Friday. It got shown basically Wednesday. It said all it has to be like hand delivered. It can't be done electronically, so I don't know. We'll see.
Did you receive confirmation of receipt? I mean, Bianca was talking about American Thomas.
Well, yeah, I am Thomas Early will make a decision on the sheet.
How do you know that?
Just because I know what I finally filed. I kind of gave people some redirection. So,
What do you mean by that?
I didn't release everything publicly. So, like my affidavit is not released publicly, but so there's a little bit of just to kind of keep the heat off.
And how do you feel Thomas Early is?
I think somebody will pull the trigger because if I were them, especially with the report that was just released, what was it, yesterday, where they had decided they wanted to expand the court. If I were the Supreme Court right now, and if I were sitting there across from one of those justices, I'd be like, look, we're about to play God with your position here. So I would seriously consider putting a stop to the chaos.
If that's decided, if one of these judges decides that yes, this is,
We go into continuity of government.
what does that look like? What are you talking about?
I don't know. There's plans already in place.
Government, as we know it, gets shut down.
First two branches. Yep. And basically, I asked that.
This is a massive power.
But they should. They're the check and balance. That's what our three branches are for. If you have two that go rogue, the third should step up, right? The third should step up and say, all right, time out. Everybody, let's figure out what y'all are doing and what's going on. Because there's something wrong here. It stinks. So I would like to see them pull the trigger. I would like to see them put us into some form of... I don't want to destroy our economy. I don't want to destroy our position in the world. So there's mechanisms in place where I think you just say, hey, you can't do anything. I'm not telling you to pack your stuff right now. Because, technically the governor can appoint and do vacancy appointments, right? So, then it'll come back to the states to figure out who to fill those seats with. But in the meantime, we can have... So I actually argue that Chuck Grassley Leahy should step up in the role of probably Grassley. He is pro tempore, and so he should fill the executive branch. But they can assign him, and then he can decide who he wants to. So if he wants to bring Trump back, he brings Trump back. If he wants to sit there himself, he can sit there himself. If they want to bring whoever, London. Yeah.
What would you like to see happen?
I just want to make
Matter to you.
Doesn't matter to me as long as it's somebody who's willing to not destroy the country. I think we're already got, a target.
Are any of these politicians aware of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Who?
I passed off the information a long time ago.
Have they
And I actually sent my pleadings to the January 6th Commission. And so everybody knows.
How are they responding to it? Have they responded? Has anybody acknowledged your effort?
I think we're going to be okay. I think the government's aware of what they do.
Which the road government?
Well,
Or
so
which
so
government?
this is the one thing I've learned in the past year. There's we call it the deep state, right?
Okay.
Call
Okay.
it the
Well,
deep state.
Trump is calling it the deep state.
Right.
So we call it the state as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the deep state, but I think
Why do we call it the state? Why don't we call it the deep government? Yeah.
yeah, it's the underbelly of the government is
Sure.
what I call it. So because they're
The
there.
government's bank.
No,
okay.
because okay. So here's how it works. There are a bunch of people. What I don't like that's happened with our government that seriously needs to be reformed is that, and this is probably the stuff that they don't want to hear. But there's this whole underbelly, which is good in a lot of ways, because the underbelly keeps this continuity. They keep us trucking.
Reserve.
Yeah, they're like the reserve. They like know what's going on. They're contractors, but they will operate out of these deep dark budgets, And so that's what's like. But they can operate for good or for bad, right? Well, there's a war going on in them, and that is what we have witnessed. That is what all of this is about. You have two factions, actually there's three total factions, at war, and we'll see who wins.
What are those three factions?
Yeah.
What are they?
Well, one faction is controlled opposition to opposition. So I read the democracy playbook at the very beginning of this, freakishly found it. And it basically says that at the top of our two-party system is a uniparty. So you've got Democrats are the progressives. They push us towards whatever
Communist socialism.
correct. And then the controlled opposition
Centralization.
is our establishment Republicans. And they are there to play stupid. I mean, like if you read the democracy playbook, which by the way was funded by the Gates Foundation, if you read the democracy playbook, I mean, I literally get the impression that Republicans are like, I don't know, what is he doing? It's the same thing we see, right? It's like, what is he doing? Why are you helping them? Why are you not taking his hand? So that's why. That is a planned demolition of this country, or transition of our country. Matter of fact, in my affidavit, I talked about I think it was in 1963 in the House, they read the communist goals.
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I included all of that in there. So I'm like, look, this is where we've come, this is where we're headed. So, and then the world.
This is why it's not being stopped.
Yeah. So, and that's what I say. Like, look, you either step up now, you save our country, save our Constitution, or you let it go. And it gets bloody because I know, and you know, whether we like it or not, at some point, I mean, we're watching the deep state of that faction create an illusion, like, I think it was like Patriot Front or whatever last week, and then January 6th, right? We're creating an illusion of violence to further that agenda of destruction of any of us that would be considered patriots. So that's what it is. That's the demonization campaign, and that's what we're trying to stand on. So at some point, the patriots, and I'm not, nor am I advocating for any violence, but at some point we know which way we are. I don't want to end up like Australia. I don't want to end up part of this other agenda.
Canada.
Yeah, even Canada. Exactly. That's not true. I mean, it's kind of the line in the sand. And it's up to the Supreme Court to figure out if you want to continue down this path or you want to do something about it.
And you feel pretty confident that they're going to.
I know I've got the states boxed in. I don't know how long it'll take to flush out. I've had a conversation with someone who would be considered one of those underbelly people that was part of the faction, which is the Patriot faction. And he said that sometimes when we box them in more, they get antsy and they try to accelerate, and that's where they'll mess up. So, just the fact that it's pending, and I don't think it's going to get chunked out because it's ironically I'm a legal loophole into getting it there in the first place. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do because they could try to accelerate their plan, which is bad for us. But they'll also show their parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which they've done a lot of in the past couple of years. vaccine.
Right.
What is their plan? Is it total destruction of the United States?
That's what I believe it is. I'm talking to some people that I've talked to last year. I believe that they are trying to. It's the full communist takeover, but it's like that global communism.
Kind of almost like United Nations.
Exactly.
America is no longer a relevant country.
Right.
We're controlling it.
Right.
But
The UN centralizes the power, and then they all just kind of we all walk
subservient to them. How did the country get to this position? How did we get there?
I think it was a long-term plan. I think it was a long-term plan, and Americans we watched our constitutional rights be diluted. But it just took a while for people to actually go, okay. So I think they've just been marching towards it for decades.
And your argument here is that this is more of a civil rights issue.
Well, the civil rights aspect of it is definitely incorporated again, but it's multiple. I did a multi-pronged attack because it's always hard to prove that who's on the fraud, right? But this is easy to say, look, you just violated everything, and you can't legally hold office unless you're lawful elected. So that you can't do.
So we go back and we've got a continuation of the government. We've got all walk listeners through what happens after that. Those that are supposedly elected stay while they get removed, or what?
Well, so in the TRO period, I want to make sure that there's no continued action on behalf of the legislature, so they can't pass the debt ceiling, can't pass any more bills, can't write checks for everything. And the executive branch can't issue any bills or anybody. I also argue, this is my favorite too, that the appointments were invalid by Biden because he wasn't duly elected, which puts Garland's out. Maybe we can restore justice to the DOJ. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not in charge, so I just take them my problem, and then that's their job to figure out how to manage it. They have plans in place for when things go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So I call it the constitutional crisis. I think we're in a constitutional crisis, and I think there's ways to handle it. I mean, in 1860, you had a rebellion by the states, which is what this is. And there's mechanisms that they can put in place to just kind of stop it, figure out what to do about it, and how to fix it.
What is this deep state mechanism? What's driving that?
They're just there. I mean, they've just always been there.
Totally controlling the Democrat Party? Republicans too.
Yeah, so, okay, one of the things I've learned in the majority of this is that, like, what we deem ourselves to be as Republicans are not really Republicans, right? Like, I think of it as more like Americans.
Constitutional.
Exactly. And so the red-blue dynamic, once I really started processing how it is really about control and division of us to keep us like
Divide
it
and
is.
conquer.
Exactly. So once I kind of figured that out, that it's just mechanisms of control, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm not playing the game anymore. I'm just going to draw myself to the game and go back to like my constitutional foundation, right? So I mean, honestly, if you're a politician that's been sitting there for decades, you need to go.
Pelosi.
Yeah, you need to
go.
But see, here's the problem. So everybody's like, well, we can just do it because of the states. I'm like, I don't want to take the crap out of Texas. Like, do you? I mean, look at what our legislature did this last week. It's a joke. It's a sick joke. We're all disgusted with our state legislature. Our governor locked us down. I mean, so it's like...
He's been funded by SoRelle.
I know. And so I'm of the opinion, really,
So he's straddling the fence. He's playing both sides.
exactly. So I'm of the opinion that if they do suspend this and we do proceed forward, there's mechanisms in every state's constitution that says, hey, people, you have the right to abolish your industry. Let's clean house. Do what we got to do.
Okay, and again, walk us through that.
It's how the people decide. Just, I mean, it's funny because at one point I was like, I did a town hall in El Paso, and I was telling them, like, you guys all have to come together, and you have to decide, do you, like, prop up a shadow school board, prop up a shadow government, like they have at the federal level, government? Do you petition to just remove them under your constitution, and then if, you petition them, which you're like, you're out, we've all declared, and we all have signed off, and so we're just like ousting you, because that's the thing, we have laws, but that's like the higher level of law, right? Our constitution is at the state level. So I don't know what it looks like, and each state's gonna have to do their own thing, but that's what we do. But somewhere in there they've got to get a hold of their state governments, because otherwise if we just send more delegates back, nothing changes. So I don't know. I don't know what that looks like.
Kellye, how
I'm just a mechanism.
you're just a lawyer scrapping for
I'm just
constitutional freedom.
yeah, I'm just following that part. The states, people get to decide what happens next.
How long did you realize that there was something not right in your country?
Long time. Well, I mean, it's just like take Texas. Like we've got AI.
Like a steady decline. Or...
Yeah, well, so like we have, and this is one of the things that's really weird. And I actually like bribed to the state. I was a prosecutor on the border, and I was in route state, and they implemented like AI. And so, like, I was supervising the CPS division. I also did the intake on the crimes against children and stuff like that. I worked with the feds. I learned a lot about how involved they were in drug running and gun running. And well, I mean, you know about Fast and Furious under Obama. That's guns, cartel, whatever. But I was down there for all of that. So I learned pretty quick how our government's too involved in criminal activity. And then I watched the AI kind of roll in for the criminal system and the child protective system, where everything came down to spit out formulas by artificial intelligence. So points determine whether to remove a kid, and justice is now defined by statistics. Like, we've got too many beds available in TBC, so we need to start prosecuting. And we need to increase the stats, so we can't dismiss that case, and things like that. So when they started tracking all of that and then spitting out what the projected goals, I realized. So then I just kind of went just looking at it on that. We're not in Kansas. You know what I mean?
Something needs to happen. So is this a cultural issue? But now you're inserting AI with this technology.
Right.
Are we as a society having a problem upholding our rights because we're allowing? Is that what's happening?
So literally our stats. As a matter of fact, I just had a guy. I just put him out in a small county here in Texas, and he has congestive heart failure. When they arrested him, he went in, like, had a full-blown, like, heart attack, cardiac arrest, then a care flight into Fort Worth, and I went to the prosecutor and I was like, this guy's not going to make this. I mean, I've got the papers where he needs a transplant. We're giving him like 3 months to live, and I'm like, this is not, I mean, it's a misdemeanor. So I'm like, just dismiss the case. Well, we can't. Why? Our stats, and that's the AI model. So that's justice is supposed to incorporate more than just like what they did. It's supposed to be this, like, is it really worth putting a guy that's got 3 months left to live, and is probably not really legitimately going to get a heart transplant?
Yeah.
Is it really worth putting him through reporting for probation, paying fees he doesn't have because he can't work anymore?
Yeah.
What's the point other than to keep your stats where they need to be? So that's what justice is.
surrounding it. There's no kind of human
Element.
judgment. Yeah, right. How does that reflect on the 2020 vote? Is there a correlation there? Was the inaccuracy?
So what I saw, and this is kind of like where I will probably piss off a lot of people. Being that I was on the ground in Michigan and I got all of the information from all the people, everything that was done is the same thing that happened in Texas. It was thumb drives before the election. Changed the formulas, like from ES and S to not just the minutes. That's a lie. Like Texas's ES and S machines were not certified. Had a critical error, and they proceeded with it anyway. And I represented the people in Williamson County and got all the documents, got all the evidence of where it was flipping the ballot files. Dallas County is another one where you can find where they were manipulating it beforehand. But it was done on the ground. It was operative. And I can honestly say it was operative on this one. It wasn't.
So this is the technology, perhaps technological advances are being manipulated.
Well, okay, so like what's funny? So Dallas County in itself, like go back to the CPS model, right? Dallas County in itself, the machine was what? One of the ladies that so you can tweak it depending on your region. And down south, if a child came to school repeatedly with bruises all over its body, they would whip it, which is rightful, right? Well, in Dallas County, they had tweaked it, and so I had a girl that had left South Texas, moved to Dallas. She was over investigation of child protection services. Not that people like child protection services, but they do. It needs to go back to the local level. But the machine there, because the child was black, it was taking points away and leaving the child in danger. So it's, yeah, exactly. So you can tweak it depending upon what your police structure is. That's the problem. So you can demonize it. And so I think that's kind of taking it from the Texas perspective and me having that background. I think that's a lot of what we see on the federal level. There's the same machine making decisions, even though it's miscalculating projection.
Yeah, the accuracy. Hey, you're suing all states, the unions. You're suing the federal government.
I'm representing. I am the federal government suing.
The federal government is suing the states for
Rebellion. Laughing.
I'm laughing, but no, it's
What it was.
expand on that. The rebellion again. Redefine that.
Because I think it's actually the parties. I think it was the two parties, and they control.
Rebellion against the Constitution.
It was a rebellion against the Constitution. They felt that in their election. And I think the key component of all of that is the Democrats and the Republicans, because they are ultimately what controls all of our state officials, right? They're part of the line. So.
Are there any supporters that you know in these various states that you're suing that they're speaking out saying, yes, this is rebellion, yes, these states may be held accountable?
No,
Anybody
I'm
come forward and say, hey,
well, no, the states aren't going through because they have to top up money into it. This is going to take the people. This is the people. Because our officials did this in the first place. They're not going to set it down. That's what we fought this entire time. You know what I mean? I mean, the case that Ken Paxton filed, the Texas case, I worked on the backside of that, but I was laughing because I was like, Texas is as dirty as the rest of us. So, you know, who are you to stand up there and be like, hey, they didn't do this, because it's like, yeah, me, you know. So, I don't know. I don't know what
you
happens.
feel confident. You're obviously confident in your work and you're confident that
I
the
think I've got it.
which would make you the one person in America right now that got the most convincing argument.
We'll see. I don't know, but I know I'm right. Like, I've already looked at it. Like, there were two websites that they specifically listed out and bragged about all the changes. Hell, Merrick Garland, I snagged it before, like, 'cause they had released some newspaper articles, but there was actually a DOJ release telling the states do not go back to pre-pandemic voting states, which basically is like, really, DOJ, how are you protecting the Constitution? You're telling the states to continue the rebellion.
Okay, so you brought something up. You're talking about it's a pandemic used.
Yes, I think it's how you collapse our country.
But
It gave them an excuse, right? It gave them the ability to destroy our voting process, like to allow for, because they knew they were going to need a lot of ballots.
They couldn't impeach.
Right. They couldn't impeach.
Right, the Russian collusion failed.
Yeah. So you need something to ensure he doesn't get probably 80 million votes, right? Because we know Joe Biden probably.
Well, isn't that what he got? Oh, it was a 60. I don't know. No, it's 80. Supposedly he got 80.
Yeah, it's all garbage. But, well, and see, that's the thing, too. And I suspect somewhere out there. Well, so there's two sensors that are in each that were installed by DHS. And this is another reason why the hacking thing was always kind of a misdirection. Because you actually had the Albert Einstein sensors. The Albert sensors were in every precinct, and they monitor the data. So the PCATs for everything was always in possession like they had it. So I'm just trying to get to it. Because here's the other fun part about that. I get to go dig. Right? They were actually a part of the album on every piece of collection equipment, like in the centralized system. So you didn't need some like crazy monitoring. It was always right there. Everything was done on the ground at every county level. It had, which I suspect is more, because I honestly believe that if we were smart, the parties would refuse the machines for the primary. And for the next primary, they would go back to a higher standard for voting, because I think that's where parties choose their backroom candidates. That's where they manipulate the primary. That's where you get the companies there. And it seems to me like it's probably like a financial bidding war, but that's where, where you see that like areas are continuously blue or red or whatever. That's why it's because they're all predetermined that this was a red county, a blue county, whatever, right? And their manipulation comes in when they're negotiating. Like, I don't think they care necessarily which is because there's primary you're taking out too. But I don't think they care at the end who necessarily wins. It's that primary level where they choose. Does that make sense? So if we were smart, we'd take away the primary.
If the pandemic is used to persuade and control, configure the way.
Like, yeah.
Who's behind that?
What?
Americans?
It's a multi-pronged issue. You had wealthy people here in the United States. You had political party operatives, and you had. I mean, it was not cut and dry. I believe it was a multi. I mean, like even the CTCL.
Collusion.
Yeah, it was conspiracy, right? To deprive us of our civil rights, right?
How do you define conspiracy? How do you personally
Two or
define
more people colluding
conspiring?
together. Yep. That's actually alleged. So in my pleadings, and I'm sure you've seen it, I've got treason in there.
I've never seen that. Yep.
Right, misprision of treason, which means you knew about it and didn't stop. I've got conspiracy. I argued RICO because I think you can get
Right,
there with
that.
parties. But the conspiracy is under 1983, which is the civil rights aspect of it. So they conspired to deprive us of our civil rights. And then I went in, which you don't have, and added the pro pronto. So that makes them come forward to prove that they were lawfully elected. And then I'm hoping, the hope is really those who know they can be busted easiest because there's probably already evidence there. We'll start rolling on. And I did figure out the operation itself, so I know the top of it.
What is that?
I'd like to lie. I'd like to say.
What?
I'd like to
You
say
didn't
a
say.
lie.
You didn't say.
It's going to come down to Obama.
Whoa. What is it? What do you mean by that?
So, Hammer scorecard, you remember that from December of last year?
Yeah.
Hammer scorecard was a thing that was brought forward like I didn't know. And this was behind Lindell. It was behind City Council. I don't know that they're bad, so don't think that I'm saying.
Okay, but what do you mean by behind?
So this was the operation behind them. It was the operation in play, and they were the frontmen of the operation.
Knowingly?
I don't know. I'm not going to cast judgment on that. Evidence will play itself out. It's an ongoing global investigation. Just know there's good guys on the one scale trying to make sure. Well, they're making sure everybody's like global, but so you
Like
have,
nuclear. Okay.
I think. Well, I mean, wasn't the vaccine probably the bioweapon?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, like,
Right.
there's no doubt
So
about it.
we're already in war. As soon as the people process we're in a war, we're great. Because then we know we need to be figuring out how to stop it. Exactly.
Organizing.
Exactly. Right now, everybody's like, oh, violence. Oh, lockdown. No. We're in a war. They are killing us. And it's time to wake up. Right? It's time to face the fact that our government wants a full-scale biological weapon against the globe in cahoots with China. Probably right now.
I think. Let's go back. Let's go back
I
to.
but
No,
okay.
you didn't say go back. Go back.
Operation. I'll give you the operation. Okay, so the operation was using a guy who has I have a 500-page report on him about his entrapment of politicians and other various people with the system called cameras. That's what it is. His handler was Mary Fanning. Mary Fanning is married to Greg Kirkland. He works for Kirkland and Ellis. Kirkland and Ellis is where Bill Barr came out of the law firm. It gets better. And went to the DOJ. Right. This goes directly to Robert. This one's done. But, well, yeah, it goes. But, so you've got Bill Barr going to the DOJ. The legal counsel from the White House under Obama, when Trump took office, went to the White House to Kirkland and Ellis. Now it gets even better. Kirkland and Ellis handled the acquisition of Dominion from the UK for Capital, like Staple Street or whatever. I can't remember. Staple Street Investments.
London? City of London or London?
I'll have to go back
You know the difference?
Oh, incorporation of something like that. I don't know. I just know it was UK Trust. We started tracking that stuff. So I think you're going to end up getting that's the Dominion lie. Their own attorney, the one that handled that acquisition, is the one that handled the operation. The attorney's spouse is Mary Fanning, which is behind Lindell and. I know, people I don't know that they were bad people. They may have been right? Like, did they know
Donald Trump. Money.
That's what I think it was.
I first listened to Donald Trump speak to SoRelle in 2015. And I took my very liberal girlfriend at the time, Harvard educated. She comes into the truck. He says, if I run for president, I'll run as himself. 2015, months later, he runs for the GOP, and I thought to myself then, what we are going to make in the GOP, here's this guy very well, says he's going to run as independent. He speaks to me because I see corruption in both parties.
Right.
Put yourself in the middle of the road on the Constitution, perhaps, rely on the Constitution. What deal did he do? You might be shedding light on a possible avenue for listeners that might reside with Dakota.
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. I don't know, and I go back and forth. I don't know if Bills were struck. I don't know if he knew what he knew.
But you'd like to know.
I would like to. But I don't know if I know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
How do you think, let's say it's Tom. What do you think he's going to react? Now we know he's improved. Have you heard from him?
Well, they asked me specifically
Yeah, she's on. Well, in the States.
Well, but I took out the branches. It's on the stage, but effectively I'm saying these representatives are out. So we have no branches.
Yeah, I'm not calling you. I mean, I'm blowing you up because
And that's a theoretical bomb. I have no intention of actually bombing anybody physically.
maybe verbally.
Verbally, yes.
And intellectually.
Or intellectually and on paper. But I don't know. I don't know what he knew. I don't know what I see.
You don't know who, like who knew?
Like Trump's camp. I don't know if there's a honeypot for him or if he was involved. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I've never been able to ask him.
Same with Powell and Dell.
I mean, it's unfortunate, right?
If Ben Pence is dead.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Let's just get Biden saying Kellye.
Right.
I mean, what's the extent, right? Well, what's the extent of it? You would think that somebody like Nancy Pelosi could be for 50 years.
Well, so,
Even Biden.
so I was there on the 6th, right? And I've given. As a matter of fact, the DOJ still has my cell phone.
Where were you?
I was in Capitol.
Inside.
But I watched it. But I never was down on the bottom east side, so I didn't see the violence. I just saw, like, I mean, I'm smiling. Like, if you find video of me, which they plug up, I'm smiling because it's beautiful. I'm listening to Patriots sing, chant about our house.
Good atmosphere, was it?
It's beautiful. I like teared up at one point. Like, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And then I left there going, oh my God, I'm a terrorist. I like this happen. Because I didn't see it. I did hear about it after that. But I know that I saw people there that did not speak. I want to say they probably spoke like there was a little roving crowd. And then I know there were people that were paid probably to be there to actually right. So in hindsight, I think that was because in the Senate report on page 9, I think our Senate's actually good. I think it's our House. But on Senate report page 9, the DOJ refuses to respond to the inquiries by the Senate. So on page when they were evaluating it. So I think the DOJ, I think you have some military dirty. I think you have you have dirty military, dirty DOJ, private individuals, right, that think that they're the puppet masters, and I mean they brought in some foreign actors.
So look, we've just been joined by Bianca, and she sat down with Kellye and I. And
Are you taking care of my attorney?
you can ask her.
Okay, we're just chatting. Okay, good.
We're
We're having a lighthearted chat here. I love it. This is a person to have the chat with. You know, we gotta
it's
get
a
her.
discussion.
Yeah, very good.
So Bianca, how do you feel about what your lawyer's written for you? How do you feel about her?
I'm brilliant. I think it's magnificent. I think it's the best thing I've read. I mean, she started working on this and formulating it way back last December. So we're like a year now, and there was just so much chaos around this. You know, I told her, I said, focus on the civil rights, and she knew that. I said, focus on the civil rights. All this other election fraud and machines and everything. I said, you're not going to get anything. It's like an O.J. Simpson case. If a glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. You got to get them on the technicalities of things. And God just used her. I mean, she was already. She knew, but there was just so much stuff, and so she really didn't even tell me.
You helped shape the
Well,
argument?
only on the civil rights. I just basically I didn't help her like
Civil
really
rights,
do it.
because she's done
But
some really amazing.
no, she's got no. I take no credit. God has all the credit. But I told my advice to her was, I want to fight on the civil rights. We are the Latinos right now. The blacks have gone in and fought for their civil rights. What about us? Okay, and so what about the one time that I go out and do this work with all my rest of my team and all these other Hispanics, and they finally come to the poll, and they finally feel like they're empowered to use their vote, and it gets stolen from them, and they see it, they visually see it. They have affidavits of all of the illegalities that took place, and I have affidavits. Do you know what it did to our community the one time that they finally feel empowered and it just gets stolen from them? And I told her, and I said, I'm going to fight for this. We need to do this. And she knew. God gave her the wisdom. All I did was tell her, stick to the civil rights. All the other stuff, that's her and God alone, okay? But me, I was like, stick to the civil rights, Kellye. This is the golden ticket. Stick to the civil rights. And she didn't even tell me. She just kept saying, I'm working on something. So I just kind of was like, okay, well, I don't know what she's working on, but yeah. And so she was like working on this, and here it was. And she didn't even send it to me. Some guy in the chat goes, do you know who Kellye SoRelle is? And I thought, oh my God, what happened to the attorney? Is she in trouble, or what's going on with her? So I was like, oh my God. So I opened up the thing, and I'm like, what's this? And I start reading through it, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, oh my God. I call her, and I'm like, were you gonna tell me about this? I mean, what is this? I said, do you know what you just did?
It's like 9,000 cannons.
I go, do you know what you just did? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you got it. I'm not an attorney. I couldn't mentally go and tell her, like, as an attorney. I said, this is what I've been trying to tell you, but I didn't know how to verbalize it in a legality way. I was like, oh my God, you did it. I was like, she did it. She did it. Her and God, between her and God, they did it. This is His glory. This is amazing. It's magnificent. It's straightforward. There's no mumbo jumbo conspiracy theories. There's no mumbo jumbo. There's no conspiracy theories. It's
conspiracy.
You violated the civil rights, and that's it. That's really it.
You rebelled against the Constitution.
That's it.
Every one of you 50 states.
That's it. This is very simple on a technicality on law that they created, they passed, that they were supposed to the law they're supposed to be following and implementing and enforcing, and they did none of it.
Which makes me mad, because look at how many people we incarcerate a year for selling this supply law, right? And yet they can just go to the lab and
They're convenient.
So it's accountability for our elections. And it needs to happen.
Bianca Kellye is obviously very confident in her approach, and she's within days, hopefully, right? Hoping to receive word back from the Supreme Court. You feel just as solid, Bianca.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Are you a politician, Bianca?
Abso-freaking-not.
Okay.
But you're running.
Are you running for an office?
I am. I'm going to officially declare when I go on stage today, yes, I'm running for Texas Senate, District 11. The ink hasn't even dried up on the paper, and I'm sitting here saying it. It's crazy!
Well, you've mentioned that before.
It's crazy.
There's other folks that know that you're doing this right now.
Yes.
What happens? What happens when the Supreme Court? And I've asked Kellye this question. What happens when the Supreme Court comes back and says, "Yes, absolutely, we're holding it. This is fraud. These are."
No, remember, it's not fraud. They're going to get them on. It's a violation of civil rights on the habit of 1964. We don't want to talk about fraud. I told her, I said, I know fraud plays into it, but
It's a technicality.
It's a technicality. Got to get them on the technicalities. You win every time.
Record retention, 22 months requirements. You've got Pennsylvania shredded data. You've got New Hampshire's original report, which they modified. It's the original report better still be on my freaking cell phone, which, by the way, the DOJ has. The FBI.
Yeah, you said that right.
Yeah. So I'm like, I had downloaded it. And
You have
then when I
another
went
cell
back to
phone.
pull it, yeah. And then when I went back to pull it, they had changed it, and they deleted the part where it said
The
they
DOJ?
violated. No, New Hampshire. Their original report said that it was by Rusty, and in there he said, I can't evaluate the envelopes on the absentee ballots because they destroyed them.
Bianca,
Violation of civil rights.
Kellye's just spotted some really interesting ties back to a UK
Are you listening now? Are you listening?
that says that Howell and Lindell were working for a. Well, you didn't
I
say work.
said
You didn't say
I
work.
thought it was a honeypot. I said
Right.
it was the honeypot hotline.
Right. You're familiar with this?
No.
I'm trying to keep her out of it.
Try to keep her out of it. You want to
I tried to see
bring
it
her
live
into
while
that?
No,
I was investigating.
no. I don't want to know because I am laser focused on the civil rights. She can handle everything else. I trust her. I
Okay.
trust her.
Okay. All right. So since you're focused on the civil rights, talk a little bit more about that. And we'll wind down.
I just did. I just told you everything I needed to tell you. Yeah, I'm fighting for.
People need to stand up. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they need to stand up, and then you go to BiancaForTexas.com and make sure that they fund me so that I can go fight. And Kellye and everybody else. So where I go, you go. You know, that's just how I go. The more that God elevates me, I elevate my people that come behind me. I was thinking, we're going to fight like hell for this state. We're going to close down the border. We're going to fix our elections. I'm not there to play games with these people. Like, we're going to get this stuff done. Period.
Kellye, thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining the program. And certainly looking forward to your being updated with accomplished because that's the main concern of the organization. Whoever it is, how they this could very possibly set the stage for a complete of the way we know it. And so, therefore, making you the source of doing that and not the man that says he was going to do it.
But that's what it'll do. It'll take it'll
And if it doesn't, what do you do? What do you do?
Everybody needs to start reading their state, learning up on their state constitution. That's if we can't get it done because our court shell is complete.
Right. That's what I'm suspecting. You're right. You got to look at all the
Right. Then it is up to the people to get their state carriers. And that's going to be a hard one. That's going to be a hard one. Look, our founding fathers, and even our state's founding fathers, our constitutions were together.
watched up.
Like they meshed together. So you start at your state level, you overhaul it, you put in some really strict requirements, clean out the officers, and make them swear a new oath, whatever it is that you want to do. Because that's up to the people. I'm not going to tell the people what to do. It's up to each local community. That's how our Constitution was written. If state convention. They need to overhaul into the state level. And I don't care about your legislators. I don't care about your governor or your attorney general or any of those puppets that are standing in your way. People shall. And that's what they got to do.
Isn't she brilliant?
Beautiful. Well, you both,
Yeah,
both
why
are very.
haven't you been paying attention to me? I've been trying to bring this to you.
That is true, listeners. That this is true. It's been sitting in the.
Nobody's been like listening. I'm like, hello, 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 hello.
But
Ian, let me tell
Bianca,
you something. Let me tell you something. And your listeners know this. You got a big mouth.
I got a big mouth.
Yeah, you do. You got a big mouth, and let me tell you something. You're going to help me line her up with everybody she needs to be talking to. You're going to do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Stu Peters and everybody else. And the
You got
Health
it.
Ranger and all
Absolutely,
these people.
absolutely, absolutely.
I want her talking to these people. All right?
What else?
Get on it. It's crucial, man. Dire needs, dire times. It's now. We drew the line, man. We're at the Alamo. The line is drawn.
That's what I said when
I already got something more than
when COVID started. I said I am like when we were in lockdown in Texas. I was in the Capitol, like open Texas chanting. That's how I got involved in this. I was the city attorney in Granbury where I lived, and I was fighting the local. I was like the resistance guys. I was like, yo, cops at 2 and that gym was like, you know. So they were like countering everything, and I was like, oh, well, I'm going to the state. I'm going to start opening the state. I didn't start the state all the time. Basically, because I didn't want to like see this.
But yeah, you see it happen. You see it happen. So they have an opportunity to right the ship.
Right.
StoreLiberty.org is an organization. Retired vets and some active duty trying to right that ship and defend their rights to defend the Constitution. And the military. It's called the StoreLiberty. So we continue to work. Together. There's some final thoughts here. You want some final thoughts, Bianca? Some final thoughts. Share some final. If you can catch, look, you can catch Bianca at Latina.
I know you're so used to saying Latinos for Trump. Hey, that's not going
I'm
away.
wear my.
Hey, listen,
I
that's
wear
not
my
going.
Trump,
That's not going
Latinos
away.
Trump shirt.
Yes, he does. Listen, Latinos.
I get a lot of comments.
It's not going away. Okay, Latinos for Trump. Latino Trump Coalition.org is the Latinos for Trump organization. Then we have the PAC, Latinos for America First, .com. That's the PAC. Now those are going to be taken over by, Moni's still sitting as a treasurer for both, and so they're going to be somebody else going to fill. Yeah,
okay.
She's the treasurer. No, she's the treasurer. So she's going to be, I've got some people already in place. I will be resigning my positions, but I'm getting everything together. But now people can follow me on any social media at Bianca for Texas, and they can go and support me at BiancaForTexas.com. District 11, State Senate. Texas Senate.
Boom.
District 11.
Kellye, some final thoughts here for listeners, please.
I know. Everybody just needs to get their communities together. That's it. I mean, it's like, hopefully we get some action. Maybe we get some relief. We'll get some relief. It just may not be full relief. I don't know how brave this Supreme Court is. But I have to think that they don't want to lose their power. And if you think about it, if they can modify the size of the Supreme Court, that'll shift every 2 or 3, 4 years, whatever, right? Depending upon the sway of the party. They don't, the purpose of the Supreme Court is to keep the politics out of it, technically.
Right.
And if you get to where we can expand and shrink, who do you decide who leaves when you shrink? Who do you decide who comes in when you expand? So you're turning the Supreme Court into a political.
The executive branch.
So
I told you she's brilliant. Did I tell you she's brilliant? Did I tell you she was brilliant?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So I'm hoping they see the light. I'm hoping the Supreme Court goes, we got to fix this or we're all in trouble. So I'd like to think they're a little bit on the egotistical side, right? I am a justice on the Supreme Court. These other branches are not going to get in here and play in my Supreme Court. Right? Cut their ego. Yeah.
Here we go. Stay tuned, folks. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.